My name is Nathan Griffiths, and I'll be speaking about sexual harassment in the workplace. By the end of this, I hope to identify what sexual harassment is, what it looks like, and how to address it when we come across it. Did you know that according to the National Public Radio, 77% of women and 34% of men are sexually harassed in their lifetime? These are just a few statistics that will be mentioned in this presentation. According to EEOE, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, sexual harassment is defined as behavior characterized by the making of unwelcome and inappropriate sexual remarks or physical advances in a workplace or other professional or social situations. According to EEOE, here are some examples of sexual harassment. They are as follows: unwelcome sexual touching, telling lewd jokes, and making offensive comments about someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. When you make a joke, it can be anything that's in a sexual nature. It can be sexual harassment if it makes someone feel uncomfortable. If you're creating a hostile workplace by telling those jokes, that's sexual harassment. You can't do that. It can be an inappropriate GIF. It can be an inappropriate meme. It can be inappropriate email. It can be catcalling when a female or a male coworker walks by. It can be anything of that nature, so your best bet is just not do it at all. What would be an appropriate thing to do if you were ever sexually harassed? According to the EEOE, once the victim identifies that he or she has been sexually harassed, the best thing to do is to report it to your employer if there is a sexual harassment policy in place. What if you don't report it? The offender would probably do it again, creating a negative atmosphere that would eventually affect all the personnel in your company. And thus would be creating a negative atmosphere. You don't want that, so your best bet is just to report it as soon as the incident occurs. Reporting it as soon as the incident occurs allows the employment management team to deal with it swiftly with minimum effort, and as otherwise waiting to report, it could be allowing the evidence to be buried, which would make it harder to catch the offender or to prove that the offender did what you're accusing he did or she did. But typically it is males that do the sexual harassing. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, victims don't report it for the following reasons. Either they don't know who's to blame, they feel that maybe they had a part to do with it, so they don't report it. Secondly, they worry about immediate repercussions. They're worried that if they file the report, that they'll be punished for filing the report because it can make the management team look bad. They fear future career repercussions. They're afraid that once they make the report that they'll hit the glass ceiling and that they won't advance anymore in their career because they're a troublemaker, quote unquote. But that's not true. You're not a troublemaker. If you're reporting it, you would actually be the person, fixing the hostile environment. PTSD, the incident could give the victim PTSD, and maybe they're just afraid to just report it overall. Trauma, maybe they don't even know how to get through the event. Maybe they're still stuck when the incident occurred. Maybe they're just confused and they don't know what to do from there. So the last thing is they don't know they were sexually harassed. And this is really because of comedy movies. Really, what we're talking about sexual harassment here is often in comedies, and it's laughed at in movies. But when it's not in the movie and it's here and it's happening to us and to you, it's not funny, and it is sexual harassment. So hopefully, from the examples we gave earlier, you can identify what sexual harassment is. What are the effects of sexual harassment on its victims? According to the National Public Radio, 31% of women and 20% of men feel anxious and depressed. 23% of women and 12% of men change their route or regular routine, paranoia. 15% of women and 12% of men end their romantic relationships or just their average friendships. Even though this does have a negative impact on them that does need to be addressed on a professional and personal level, only 10% of women and 5% of men filed a report with their employers, and only 7% of women and 4% of men sought medical attention, preferably by a counselor. What can we do to prevent sexual harassment? We can start by acknowledging that it is wrong and it only degrades our character and does not serve any beneficial purposes to us, whether it be professional or personal. We can continue to educate our business and establish small businesses what sexual harassment is, that it needs to be reported immediately. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the victim has 180 days since an incident to report it. Together, through positive enforcement, we can change the atmosphere to a more positive and uplifting environment that promotes professional development. Thank you for your time, and I hope we all learn something together about the negative effects of sexual harassment.